Good morning, everybody. Last day of the year, 31st of December. It's been another good morning here. I've done about 2 hours writing this morning. Yesterday afternoon, I didn't do a session of writing like I have been trying to do mornings and afternoons. Yesterday felt like a big eating day. um, had lunch out and then came home and had a bit of a rest, and then it felt like we were going out to eat again. So I didn't get the afternoon session. But what I've done is I woke up at a good time this morning, and I came out the back, and I finished here 2.3 and 2.4 for the act planning for those two acts, which is great. So now I'm up to chapter 3 that I'll do this afternoon if all goes well, and start the planning for that. So it's all good. I mean, it's going really nicely. I feel like the progression is tracking the way that I would like it to. I think one thing I've been thinking is maybe sort of keeping check of the genre in a way that I'm writing in. Anything that I've written in the past has been very reflective and meandering and literary in a way that has tried to be very, um, very philosophically sort of thoughtful things without necessarily having a lot of action to drive it. Um, because those are the sorts of books that I enjoyed for a while there, and still do, in a David Foster Wallace style fiction. Um, Trying to think of others that maybe sort of fall into that same category. But then, I mean, I've also always really liked things like Gravity's Rainbow, books of Haruki Murakami that maybe tilt on that line of reflective, interesting, thoughtful um, considerations, beautiful aesthetic descriptions of things, but then also have a lot of really interesting action. And what I've been writing and planning for this book is very action based at the moment. It's very this happens and then that happens and then there's running there and then something blows up and it's all um, you know I don't want it to be an that sort of blockbuster film style thing, but on paper. Or I mean the reason it's sort of going in that path is I am thinking very anime, manga, Japanese sort of action narrative um, thoughts with this, which I love. Like I love the art and the style and the car chase feel of that momentum. I've just got to be careful to not have too much of that, and to instead balance it out with the other things that should be in the book and that I want to be there in terms of understanding of the relationships that are growing in the story, thoughts on the society and the way that some of that stuff's moving. I mean, I guess the thing that keeps the thing that I keep thinking is I actually don't enjoy reading some of those books that go like it's a balance. Like I've never really been a fan of, say, science fiction where it it just spends a lot of time explaining the different sort of versions of the societies maybe the books are engaging in, and the way the politics of the area work, and what the economic situation, almost that sort of Gulliver's Travel style, um, or like in 1984 when Orwell sort of spends a lot of time explaining the politics of the government, and the way that the sort of global war takes place. It's good stuff, but I think I don't, where everyone my head is now and what I enjoy reading and engaging in, it's got a little more rocket fueled spark to it than that. I like things to move a bit quicker and to be a bit more stimulating in pyrotechnic terms rather than maybe visceral cognitive terms, although I still love that stuff. So, I mean, this is the fact I'm having maybe trouble getting to a clear point, is because it's something I'm reflecting on a lot at the moment. And what I think where I'm at in thinking about how this all translates into my novel is a lot of the planning at the moment is describing action. So it's describing here's what happens in scene 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in this particular act, and it's a lot of this happens and then they move here and then here. So it's really almost like a screenplay of action is what I'm making. And when I look at it, I think, gee, that's a lot of action. There's not a lot of the other stuff in there that I want to have in there. And when I say the other stuff, I mean, I guess I'm putting myself on the spot a bit because I haven't thought about it a great deal. But I mean, I've thought about it. I just haven't worked out what it's going to look like in the book necessarily. Certainly, there's a lot of backstory as to how this is all happening and a lot of foreshadowing of things that are going to happen. There are different philosophical considerations on history and the cycles of history, of thesis versus antithesis and the synthesis, that that sort of Hegelian dichotomy stuff, but translated in an interesting way. I mean, that just sounds ridiculously dull at this stage when I've just said I didn't enjoy, George Orwell describing politics in 1984, and then I'm saying, wouldn't it be great if an action novel blended Hegelian dialectic with with all that stuff? But there's messy, wonderful things, thoughtful things that I want to have embedded in with all the other action that's taking place. So what my planning is focused on at the moment is get all the action down like a screenplay, and then go back in for the second round, really, of sort of outlining and draft planning, where I can say, okay, I've got the action down across every act across the novel. Now it's time to work out how more of the relationships, more of the thoughts, more of the setting, the context, the meaning to all of this is really built into that, and that will tweak and change some of the action. It will also change the feeling of all those things going back in. I guess it's similar that to which I did a couple of days ago when I said I just had to get my head around the whole book. So I sat down and just blasted out the entire novel from start to finish in terms of single line sentences. And now I'm going back into those single line sentences and turning them into sort of 1,000-word outlines per act. And that's great, but that's just another step. It's not the end of the outlining. I'll then be going back in and putting in all the meat, to hang off the bones of the action of that structure. And I guess I don't want to give the impression that I'm just putting that meat on for the sake of it. The meat is why I want to write the book. The action is great, and the story, in that physical moving sense, is great. But I've got things that I want to communicate in really interesting, really artful ways, and that's the stuff, though, that I think has to come at this stage after the action has all been hung on its hooks. I need to then work out where this other stuff fits in appropriately. The stuff I was doing with the philosophical sort of world building, a couple of days ago, that's the stuff that will come back around for the third round of outlining and planning. So I guess time-wise, I mean, I'm up to chapter 3, so I've finished the first 2 chapters of, I guess, what I could call action outlining, and now I've got chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then, so when did I say I'd finish those by? Say 2 acts every day. Act 1 this afternoon for chapter 3. Wrap up chapter 3 in 2 days' time. So say like another 8 or 9 days of planning, and the action outline will be finished, and then I'm going to go back through all of those and more reflectively add in the other components, the trajectories of the relationships. And I think that's why, with the template that I uploaded 2 days ago now, I think I tried to build in lots of that into the planning. things like what will, one character want and think and feel at the start of the act, and what will they feel and want by the end. What sort of questions will the reader be asking about what they need to know, what the reader wants to have answered at the start of the act, compared to what they'll have answered in some way or resolved by the end of that act. So it's not just a pure action list of screenplay style, but it has more of the of the other stuff sort of built in there too. So yeah, that's where I'm at. It all feels good. I mean, the fact I'm thinking about these things, um, it may come across with a feeling of uncertainty the way that I'm describing it, but I think I've got a really clear idea of what it all is going to be. It's just a matter of building it in now and working out when to do it. Like I said, I sort of caught myself a bit yesterday and this morning thinking there's a lot of action here, but now that I've got my head in the space of, oh, this is an action outline with a bit of the meatiness of the other things built in, but the majority of that will come after the sequencing of action is all in place. Again, this is the first time I've planned and done something of this scale, so there might be other ways of doing it, but certainly that's where I'm at the moment. So thank you very much. I'll write this up into the blog and upload it in just a moment. Hope you have a lovely New Year's Eve wherever you are, if that's something that you choose to celebrate. It's going to be very quiet here. We sometimes watch the fireworks from our street. It sort of looks into the city. And otherwise I'm hoping to be up at a really early good time on New Year's morning to get started on, or to continue writing and planning. So thank you, and I'll see you then.